Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hello. Who who was my hello? That was a nice hello. That made me feel warm inside. All good.
So
Am I
it's me,
supposed to
Rob
say hello
Smith.
too?
It's who?
Rob Smith.
Hi, Rob
Rob.
Smith.
Hey, Rob Smith.
What's up, man? How
I
you
just
guys doing today?
fantastic.
Cool.
All right, we want to give it a few minutes, Armand, since it's 1 till. Just give it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay,
Absolutely. Sounds good to me.
cool.
See my buddy, my partner in crime, Jamie Johnson, on here, Sisters of the Streets. Hello, hello. Oh, she jumped up there. How'd that happen? That was cool.
Hi,
Hey, Jamie.
how are you?
Good. How are you doing? I haven't seen you in a minute.
I'm good. I know it's good to see your face. What up, bro?
What's happening? Grab some water. Shall return.
Well, I have my 5th cup of coffee.
I didn't get enough coffee today. I was saying they should have like a coffee delivery that's not like $20,000 for DoorDash.
I know, seriously.
Oh, it's Rob. It's the Rob.
Oh, Rob.
It's the
What
Rob.
up, Rob? Your voice sounded differently. Yeah, for me too. I didn't sound like you at first.
Oh,
Yeah, see, it made a whole lot of difference seeing my partner on here. Love it.
yeah. Trying to get into my computer, but it's giving me a hard time today.
Mm.
Joined by my phone, but finally I got in. All right. I'm gonna try
We're
to
going
log in
give it
computer.
till 5 after, Armand. What do you think? It's 4:01 right now. Yeah.
I'm giving a 405. But in the meantime, why does the county make their applying for RFPs so complicated? Oh my God. I just like there's an RFP they just released today that's perfect for the work that I do. And then I just looked at it and it was so discouraging. I'm like, I don't even want to fill this out. I gotta call Lydia Sierra because this is not good for me.
Yeah, it's very complicated for sure. All the time. All the time.
Yeah. What's up, Mr. Brooks?
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Armand, I see you over there, Rob, as well.
What's up? What's up?
Hey.
Rocking that wake up and stop the genocide shirt. I need another one in my arsenal. Love it.
Yes, sir.
I hope I'm on the right Zoom. I'm just like doo 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 doo.
No, you definitely on the right Zoom. Yeah, you definitely on the right Zoom. So just as we about to start in a few minutes, give people till 4:05. But this is we're casual conversation, and even if you weren't reached out to personally and you have some insight and you want to give, this is for us to dialogue with each other for the purpose of me and Amanda started this conversation series because we do realize the importance of CBOs, community-based organizations, nonprofits, and systems working together. We may not like each other at all at every or agree on every single thing, but we definitely realize the benefit of the collaboration points, and not for us as individuals, because I'm guilty of it. I have my own emotions sometimes, and I don't want to work with this person because they said this or they act like that. But the fact of me not having that relationship can mean the individuals I do want to help not getting the services they need. So we want to just start this dialogue conversation with groups of people that been either working with systems, working with community-based organizations, and have some insight that can help others to how do we do this better? you know, all about improvement. How do we improve so that we could be a better service to the different populations and people that we want to help?
You know, sometimes you gotta go in the belly of the beast to do the work, right?
Yeah.
And the enemy is not always inside, you know, it's just the practices that our own people have because of these policies and generational practices that
Mhm.
they inherited ways that are just dehumanizing, right?
Yep.
It's up to us to make a difference. And there's also community-based organizations that they hard to trust, right? Because they say they do the work, and when you look, they're not even doing jack. Fill in the blanks, right?
And Jeanette,
So how do we build trust?
right. And who defines what is a community-based organization? Can I be, because you hear community-based organization, you hear big five, but it can, and it is always a big five. I don't know where that number came from because it's like a big 20, but the big five, if you're what does that mean? And can you be a big five and located in the community? And now are you a community-based organization? And what is the community? You know, people say, I represent the community. What community? And does the community even know you? You know,
Sometimes, you know, they use the word so freely, and it defines something after a while, right? Because they were community-based organizations that were doing authentic work, right? You know, there were groups of individuals doing amazing work. We can go back to Black Panthers, the Young Lords, right? We can go back to those folks that were really creating community-based work, right? And now they use it so freely that I'm like, what community-based organization you represent? What community you working at? Show me what you're doing before you start talking and rambling all over the place, right?
right.
But I want to see investment in communities. How can systems, right, that have been dictating how to spend their dollars do it effectively, right? And giving it to the right people. How do we support organizations or communities that are family oriented, right? That are youth oriented.
Mhm.
And the definition of family is not only blood.
Right.
You know, I'm born and raised in the Bronx, and I come from Puerto Rican parents.
Mm.
And people growing up would say, "Oh, Puerto Ricans, yeah, all related, yeah, because that's my cousin, that's my brother." That it wasn't about blood; it was about our circle of influence, right? Those who define that they're gonna provide us with what's needed so we can thrive, and you know, defining community-based, defining systems, define families, and those are the ones who need the most.
Yeah. And who's making these definitions? Because even though, you know, I'm an individual and I can come up with my own thoughts, but you know, my bro DeAndre, we might disagree about something. So his opinion, we individuals coming up with, you know, our own opinions. But I wish there was a rule book and you had to check off these things to be what is a community-based organization.
You know, I heard you say, you know, not agreeing all the time, people disagree, and that's okay.
Right.
It's okay to disagree. You know, I tell everybody, I don't agree with my husband all the time, and I've been with him since I was 21 years old. Do we agree all the time? Absolutely not. I don't know.
Impossible.
But that's what, you know, that's what's rich about disagreeing, right? How do we come to consensus now to make a decision that's best for everyone?
Right. And
When-
you don't have to agree on every point, but those points, especially when it comes to servicing the people, there's agreement points and focus on those. And sometimes we find ourselves, and not raising my hand, we'll focus on the disagreement, which may be small, and now the relationship is not there, and now we're not servicing the people. But anyway, we 407. Jeanette, you got us hot. You said
Let's get it started. Yeah.
Amanda,
listen, it's 707 up in the Bronx. So I don't know what you're talking about. 407, it's 707.
It's 707. Bring it. That's right. Amanda, can you please bring us in? Bring us in.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for being here. As Armand was saying, we started this series just because we're passionate about the work. We know a lot of you on here. It's good to see all of you. Today's conversation is how do you bridge community-based organizations, grassroots organizations with systems? And just for me, for those of you that don't know me, I'm an advocate, right? So I'm really passionate about the Credible Messenger movement. Anything to do with community nonviolence, and I'm really for restorative practices. So kind of like you were saying, Jeanette, like that generational thing that goes from one generation to the next to the next to next, because we think we should do this policy or we should act in this way, or groups should do that or shouldn't do that. And so I'm really a big advocate for getting outside the box, creativity, and whatever's going to work for a specific program or a specific organization. So that's a little bit about who I am. And today we're just going to kick off a conversation. Armand, I don't know if we're going to just start, roll off with these questions, or if you want to introduce some of the people that you invited in, because I know that we've got some guests here as well.
Yeah, so we have some great individuals on, and like I said, I like juicy conversations. So I really reached out to some of my colleagues out here that I know do real work and work with systems. Whoa, and then people like Jimmy hop on just when you thought it was hot enough. Then you got brother Jimmy hop in here. So yeah, invited people. Yep. So I wanted to have a good dialogue, and this does, it's super casual. Nothing formal about this. We want to have this conversation in the hopes that other people that will hear this, not just right now, but think of as we're answering these questions, y'all. Jamie Johnson, my sis, Jeanette, DeAndre, Bishop Bowser, I see on the line. Jimmy, he disappeared, but he's here. I know he is. Kristen, as we answer these questions, and please feel free to jump in. Feel free to cut each other off respectfully, and let's dialogue, and have in your mind that our answers are aimed at helping other people that, many of you have been doing this work for a while. How do we help that next generation of leaders that are coming in to maybe avoid some of the pitfalls and actually be better servants to the people? So have that context in your mind, and then pull from lived experiences that you've had working with systems, with community-based organizations. All right. So I have some questions that I wrote down, and I'm going to pass them along, and I'll go in. Everyone, please answer, and let this be the beginning of that dialogue. I'm going to go from where I see Jamie, you next in line to me. I don't know if it's the same on your end, but that's what I see. And I'll start off. My first question is, how do you define collaboration between systems and community-based organizations in the context of addressing complex community issues?
That's the first question. And I'm supposed to answer that?
No.
All right.
Hey, I'm gonna dial it back. I did go jump in the front row, but I'm gonna sit in the middle of the stands right now. Let me cut that in half, because that was my thought. But so just define collaboration between community-based organizations and systems. What does that mean to you when you hear that? Community-based, working with systems.
So for me, collaboration is going to mean, so for me nowadays, collaboration, the importance of the foundation has to be values, similar values and similar approaches in mindset. Doesn't mean we have to agree on everything, as was already stated earlier. But I learned early on that don't be too eager to collaborate with everybody, because all money is not good money, and all people are not good people to collaborate with. That's not to say that everybody doesn't have good intent, but that does mean to protect. I've learned to protect my collaborative energy and artistic energy behind what it takes to collaborate, because you do have to step outside of yourself and make it work with other people. It's kind of like any type of intimate relationship, right? A friendship, a romantic relationship, whatever that looks like. You're taking your values and what you see fit for your path and what you think a system or a resource should look like, and you're trying to align it to work with the next person who also has direct, clarity on what their values are and what their approach is as well. So for me, collaboration is staying teachable, staying in alignment with your foundation of your values, knowing what your values are for your organization or for your advocacy or for your activism, whatever that looks like, Like, what do you stand on? Do you even have a top 5 set of values that you know you offer when you're offering these services? And if the answer to that is no, I think that there's a step before collaborating where you have to get in tune with yourself and what you're doing in the community and how you're showing up. So for me, I guess staying teachable, being clear on what your values are and what values you're comfortable with aligning with, and standing solid in authenticity and what you represent, and being open to receiving other people's perspectives and ideas as well.
Awesome. So one piece I took from what you just said is, if your values aren't in alignment with the person or the entity you're looking to partner with, you probably shouldn't even partner with them in the first place.
I would say initially, like as a baby organization or as a baby advocate, whatever that looks like, as somebody fresh into the scene, I would suggest no, because it could steer and dictate where your mind and where your values are going. When you might have a clear path and then you start getting kind of jumbled with all these other ideas, if you're not super solid in what you're doing already, it's really hard to collaborate with any and everybody, because now I'm like, oh, opinions, perspectives, experiences. And so I think at the beginning for me, if somebody was watching that is just like, oh, I want to get into this, my advice would be to first get clear on your role and your space in the community and your values, and then get closest, start partnering with people that align with that. And then once you have a solid foundation, venture out into aligning with people that maybe have a few values that you like and agree with, but maybe don't do everything that you might agree with, and then start stepping into that territory versus it rocking your foundation going into it. Hopefully, yeah, if that makes sense.
Thank you. So Jeanette, same question. In your opinion, what does community-based organization collaborating with systems, what does that look like? What does that mean to you when you hear those words?
Collaboration to me means that the families are at the table making effective decisions and planning and budget as well, right? You're not gonna, collaborating doesn't mean that you're just inviting me to an event, right? Or having me sign a consent form, right? Or just me being a bobblehead because there's a family member, and that's what it makes it look like you're partnering. True collaboration means being able to make decisions about which programs are appropriate, which organizations are providing the cultural relevant programs that are needed, right? And align that with the dollars, right? When we talk about programs and collaboration, I've worked with systems. I work with the school system, so I know how they operate, right? I know that there's funding there to strengthen families. There's funding there to provide young people with the educational needs, right? Their needs. And in 2010, I got to experience what it was to be a parent in the justice system. So I shifted my advocacy from working in the school system to understanding the justice system. And I worked on a research project. I didn't want to work on that research project because I was like, who the hell want to do a research project and look at community like guinea pigs? You got data and then you don't do shit about it, right? How do now I use data, right? And the report that we worked on, Families Unlocking Futures, and really bring the awareness, right, of what's happening in our communities. But what was really more harming for me, and I said, this can't be true, that we were spending more money in incarcerating our kids versus educating our young people, versus investing in after-school programs, like $25,000 back in 2010 for education, $5,000 for an after-school program, and almost $300,000 to incarcerate our kid, right? And our kids were not coming back more educated. They were not coming back like model citizens. I raised 5 kids besides the one that went to the system. And listen, I did a better job with less money. I did a better job with less money. So I got involved, right? Creating programs that can help families navigate the system, understand the system, build that relationship. But I had to build trust, right? Because now I'm going in the belly of the beast. I'm trying to let families know, no, I'm being like Robin Hood. We getting some money from the system to support the work authentically, not giving them their prescription, right? Because they got their own programs. They know how to puppet communities. They know how to puppet families. No, we are thinking outside the box. This this is what we want to give families, right? And it had to start also with trust and healing, right? How do we support organizations and individuals that are working in systems that there's one common goal, right? If you're working with kids, I know you're going to feel good if that kid is succeeding. If that kid doesn't succeed, then you did a horrible job. So don't flatter yourself, juvenile justice. And I had to be transparent. You have been preparing our children to go to the adult system, another cycle, right? So develop programs, supported departments and systems. But COVID really highlighted that the work needed to be in the community, right? How do we now build the capacity of the community so that they understand how to get those government grants, right? Because we're not trusted with a receipt, right? So we have to prove maybe 10 times harder than the average person, right? That has that I call them the regular suspects, that they get all the grants. There's organizations that they get all the grants. And I'm like, where the hell you at? I don't see you after 5 o'clock. Where you at? So when I was asked to participate here, this is not 9 to 5 for me. This is not Monday through Friday, right? So we're those organizations that we talk about that are authentic so that they can partner with systems, because systems don't trust us. Systems don't really trust community-based organizations. They just have to partner and give resources, a little crumb, but those crumbs are not good enough any longer, right? It's costing us now in New York almost $800,000 to house one of our young people who are talented, gifted, and beautiful, right? Versus what they invested in incarceration. And then when we think about Rikers, the 5-star, because I'm hearing about 5, I don't know what 5 means in the group, but Rikers Island is a 5-star resort for those who don't know it, and it's costing us $500,000 a year. So when people don't want to talk about race, when they don't want to talk about the disparities across system and the unfairness, I'm a radical, passionate woman, yes, but that amount of money, invest in community-based that are authentically, right? Because it takes trust. We don't trust that. And I just had an experience with an organization, New Life Equine, who are poverty pimps. So let's talk about organizations that we cannot trust. And because of those organizations, it's difficult to partner with systems that really want to practice and do something different, right? We talk about the justice system, probation, right? Transformation, right? But we're not holding the schools accountable. Why they're not being accountable? Why they're not being held accountable for the school to prison pipeline? Tell me when you want me to shut up, because I can go on, because I want to attack the child welfare system,
So
right?
we're gonna attack.
Dictate.
Let's attack them in a second. We're gonna hold on. See, we went from collaboration to get rid of them. I like that. No, I'm joking. But I want to make sure everybody get a chance because we got a couple more questions we want to get out for the time. But I love you, Jeanette. DeAndre, in your opinion, when you hear collaboration of systems and community-based organizations, what does that look like from where you sit, and what should it look like? Just what do you get from that statement?
I mean, that looks like community-based organizations who have individuals who are close to the heart of the struggle and the root of the issues, being able to collaborate with individuals who have a little bit more funding and a different type of infrastructure. I mean, some community-based organizations can be a part of the Big Five or whatever that we have out here, but if you're not part of the Big Five, you're basically going to be a grassroots organization, boots on the ground, being able to be in touch with the different things that are going on, and you need to be able to have a nice rapport with the Big Five or systems-based, you know what I mean, organizations, in order to make things happen. And a lot of times you're not going to view things, the same way. You got to kind of find that middle ground, something I've been working on, because a lot of times we get in meetings and when we're talking and we're not getting along, we start to rock the boat and we just kind of attack each other verbally. So I've been in a lot of meetings where I've heard some things that go against, all the community stuff that, I'm on, and a lot of the individuals that view things from my perspective, we don't get heard. But then when you actually give it an opportunity to talk with people, try to understand them, and continue to meet and find that middle ground, it works out for everybody at the end of the day. But we got to be able to have dialogues like this, conversations like this, and really just be real about it. I mean, because sometimes people, their hands are going to be tied when you're dealing with systems-based organizations and stuff. They may want to say, hey, I'm with you, and their heart may be with you, but they may not be able to push that button in the position of power that they're in. And could just say like, hey, that's exactly what it is. I hear you. We got to try to find another way around it, or come up with some alternatives together and stuff. So if we do go against something or change something, we have other viable options. So that's a situation that I've been in like lately, dealing with people, and they're like, we hear you, we get you, but there's no way I actually can make that move. You know, I can't rock the boat when it comes to that right there, but I'm willing to work with you, come up with some different alternatives and options, and then we'll be able to, you know, bring this back to the table when it comes to trying to make something different happen. So, I mean, I appreciate the work that everybody does, and it's tough all the way around, especially when your heart is up in it and you have the morals, values, and principles, you know, that you came up off of, and you continue to have those with you.
Yeah, thank you. And that piece is deep right there, where as individuals, sometimes even individuals work for systems, and they may want to do things, they may want to make certain moves personally, but the system itself might be so, the bureaucracy within, they cannot make those moves. And now that individual has decisions to make. That's really deep. My brother Jimmy, man, I miss you, bro. Same question coming to you, your direction on what does that mean to you on the collaboration of systems and community-based organizations? When you hear that, what does that mean to you in the work you do?
Man, thank you for having me, bro, and open up the space for us to have this conversation. No, I think in my experience, the best thing that we can do for the community in navigating that space and bridging that gap between systems and community-based work is understanding who we are and why, grassroots organizations, advocacy groups, nonprofits were created, and that was to service the gaps within the community and be a voice for our neighborhoods that often, are underserved, or else we wouldn't be there, right? And I think that a lot of times systems will try to create the work and create the target and focus point of what they want us to accomplish based off of what they restrict the funding for, right? So like if they restrict funding for X, Y, and Z, but the neighborhood need is A, B, and C, it's like it's up to us to continue to advocate for the community, which we're on the boots, we're on the ground, to tell them like to get in those meetings before they restrict the funding for them to dictate what the work's going to go for. Because if they release $100,000 into the community to serve, let's say Southeast, or to serve specifically Oceanside, and then they narrow that down even to a specific neighborhood, and we have we all know what organizations work within that neighborhood, but they restrict the funding to, man, I don't know, like, it can be whatever, right? They restrict it to that. Well, everyone is now going to be focusing their objectives to make sure that they get the funding. It's going to be based off where that funding is going. And I think a lot of times systems miss the mark on that. And, if they included, individuals like everyone in this group in those meetings, then we wouldn't be funneling dollars to things that the community, I mean, they're probably a need, but it's not the root cause, right? And I think that we see that happening a lot in our organizations. It's like, we need to be sustainable, so we need this funding source, but at the same time, we're not getting at the root cause, and we're just serving what is hot at the moment, and many times that like leads to surface level solutions, and so I think it's for us to continue to advocate for the communities and continue to really elevate what the needs are within the neighborhoods based off our lived experiences and knowledge of the amount of time that we spend in the neighborhoods. That's my answer.
Absolutely. And dovetail off what you said, and that money's released for a specific thing, and now everybody in the community, it also pits people against each other, because everyone's they need funding and almost get starved out. So that one little piece for gun violence, and everyone has a piece of gun violence, they're altering, and if this one group gets it, this one doesn't, and they're pointing, and it just creates this competitive a feud sometimes. And
Yeah, man,
like
and
that.
it sucks too, because what ends up happening is like we can't do what we do without each other, right? But if they're only going to release one RFP, and there's 5 groups out here doing the work, and we all know each other, but like you said, man, it happens. You see it happen all the time, and it's man, I hate it. I really do. Yeah,
for sure. And now, my quadruple OG down here, Bishop Cornelius Bowser, same question in your hands. What does community-based organizations and systems working together, when you hear that, what does that mean to you? What does that look like? Please breathe on us with your plethora of knowledge, my brother.
I don't know about all of that.
Yes, sir.
But I guess, before I would just say that when I think about collaboration and my experience as far as work we do in the community and things like that, collaboration can't be dictated, right? It must be something that we're all willing to do and come together and work together on a specific outcome. And I think, for the most part, the way I see it is, I heard everyone talk about, so a lot already been touched on, at least from my point of view, what I'm thinking about. But I would just add, and give an example of like one of the groups that I co-founded is CAS, Community Assistance Support Team, which addresses gang and gang violence as it relates to guns, or any type of violence, but specifically focused on gun violence, because we know that 100% of homicides are by gangs are committed with a gun. And so that's why we try to focus in that area, even though we address all. But what I found over the years of doing this for many years is being a pastor and doing this work out of the heart, right? Because being a former gang member and looking at my community, where I grew up over in the Sherman, Stockton, Memorial, Logan Heights, Bar, Logan, Grant Hills, and even East Village now, those areas, I saw neglect. And so that's what I just want to get involved to fight for my community, make sure that, we're trying to do what we can to address that. And so with co-founding CAS, I had an organization in 92 was Let Us Make Man Outreach Services. And then in 95, I started pastoring. So I just merged everything into the church. But then in around 2010, 9, somewhere 11, somewhere around there, 2012 maybe, I got together with some pastors and we started a group called CAS, Community Assistance Support Team. All the work we were doing was volunteer work. We weren't asking for money. We didn't want any money. Our main goal was we wanted to reduce the violence in our community and prevent it. We was trying to get on the front end to prevent it, and then on the back end when something happened, disrupt it. But what I found as far as is when you're volunteering, you can build a huge table of collaboration. We built a table where we had a lot of different agencies coming together, whether it's the county, probation, police, whether it's the DA's office, U.S. Attorney's Office, SDPD, even the sheriffs. Many different agencies came together and working together, right, for the common cause to get one outcome, right, and that is to address the gang violence in our community. So we work. The reality of that is that we work together on that, right? There may be some issues when it comes to systems not understanding the struggle of Black people and brown, but because I'm Black, that's what most specific address. Like, for example, you deal with the police and you're collaborating with them, but then when they kill someone and you speak out against that, it creates a friction. It creates a problem within the systems, right? To where that now they don't want to work with you no more. So I did encounter a lot of that and so on. But for the most part, when you're volunteering and giving free service, everybody will come to the table and folks will work with you and collaborate with you. But once money gets involved, not only does it create friction within the agencies, but I think, as you said, Armand, it creates friction in the community too, right? Because this is work you've been doing for years and years and years and years at no cost. And then all of a sudden someone will reach out to you because they see the work you're doing and say, hey, I want to support you with funding. But the moment money gets involved, everybody come to the table. What about me? What about me? What about me? So it creates a friction and the divide in the community. And then also systems, as I heard somebody say, they don't trust you. And so then systems don't trust you from the perspective of what you're doing with the money. There's a greater accountability on you because you come from the streets. Many of us have criminal backgrounds, and because of race, right? And so you have those issues where they don't trust you, and accountability, a heavier accountability upon you because of all the background that you have. So it creates a huge problem when money is involved, and so it tarnishes the collaboration because money is there, because systems don't know how to work with you from the perspective of trying to reach an outcome in collaboration, like reducing gun violence or gang violence or whatever we want to focus on that. It begins, we don't care about that anymore because it's about this money. That's all we want. And that's all we care about is this money that you get in that's coming to you. We're concerned about it. Now, I think DeAndre raised a question. I don't know if your hand is up for me or for somebody else, but DeAndre, not someone raised a question, but made a statement, which I think is very important also when you talk about the big five. Because I think that, all of us that is not a big five or don't have an organization that doesn't have the capacity, you most definitely got to hook up with a big five that will not only, be a fiscal sponsor for you, but has years and years and years of experience in knowing how to deal with these systems so they can mentor us and mentor you to show you how to keep a collaboration healthy and as you move forward, but also help you to build capacity. Because there's a lot of things that when you're doing it for free is not required of you. But then when you are collaborating with agencies and organizations and different things like that, and money is involved, there is a deeper level of accountability and a lot of mandates that you have with the county, with the state, and with the federal government, and so on, with all these different mandates that you have to have in place, right? And not just with the trainees and all that, but even internally, right? There's just so much. And so I think it's important for huge organizations that have that capacity, been around for years and years and years, have the experience already well established, to mentor and help those smaller organizations build that capacity to be able to step out on their own, right, one day, and don't have to rely on the big five or anyone else, and set up well and so on. So that's what I've seen in my experience. As far as when you talk about collaboration, we do when you're volunteering your services, for the most part, it works well. But when money is involved, then it brings a lot of friction involved in it and so on. And I think systems, like they say, we need to be trained, educated. Systems also need to be trained and educated and learn how to work with communities and so on. And I would say, for sure, whatever reason, hook up with a big five, right? Hook up with a big five for various reasons. Sometimes funders, they see a smaller organization, they don't want to give it, or like us being a church, sometimes they don't want to give it. So it's always good to have a traditional organization that's out there and that's well respected and established, to where that you can bring them in as your contract manager or whatever they want to call it, fiscal sponsor and so on. But that's what I say. So I don't know if DeAndre had a question for me or somebody else.
Go ahead, DeAndre.
Oh, so I did, man. Thank you for sharing, Bishop Bowser, man. It's always a pleasure to hear you and pull from your wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
You kind of just jogged my memory a little bit and stuff, man, because it's something that I've been going through, like right now, interacting with a lot of different individuals, building my network. And it's a lot of people I've worked with before and that I'm good with. And then they have had different interactions with other people and other organizations where money got involved and the relationships were tarnished. So now I'm in the middle, and as I'm working with them, it's like, well, I don't deal with this person in this organization no more, and this and that and the other. And I'm like, I don't have those dealings just yet. I'm trying to navigate, that water, like, I'm still good with you. I'm still good with you. I'm not trying to hear anything over here and let that taint, my mind when it comes to working with individuals. But then that ends up happening too as well when different organizations and individuals have fallouts. And it's like, you just try to stay in the middle and try your best to stay in the middle and continue to work with people. But that's a thing as well too. So I kind of just, that was hard to hear once you got through speaking. And I'm like, I'm truly going through that right now.
And that's what I'm glad you brought that up, because that is a huge problem. I shouldn't say problem, challenge that we face, right? And I think, you know, one of the things I did forget to mention that I think what can fix part of that, not all of it, but what can fix part of that is accountability among ourselves, right? And that's where I see a lack of even among organizations, community, because people can screw you over, steal your programs and different things like that. And with hundreds of thousands of dollars involved, and they can continue to work in the community and people treat them like they're heroes. And so it does, you know, and when you see this, there's no accountability here. Like, you know, people can do whatever they want. We can screw each other over and everything is okay. Now, I feel you on the part that when you work with two different groups or different groups of people, some like this, some don't want to fool with this group and some don't want to fool with this group. Because I've been caught in the middle of that before too. And because I've had people who are close to, right, that don't want to fool with another organization, get mad at me because I am. And then, and so it helped me to understand when I start having problems, right? Because if I have a problem with organization, I'm not working with them. But if whoever else want to work with them, you know, you cool with me as long as, you know, we're cool, you know, as long as you don't shift up and start changing, letting people influence you and things like that. I'm cool with it, you know, because I've learned through my own experience, right, that, you know, you might be good with somebody, but the other group that you work with may not be good with them, and you may not be able to bring all these people in the same room, right? And I'll just use this as a extreme example. Is that, like, for me, like with police, right? A lot of community members don't want to fool with the police. I have people tell me that all the time, you know. and so you know, I build a collaboration with that and relationships with that, and I'm able to go in the room and deal with them and so on. But some people can't, and some people take it so personal to where that, like, hey man, I ain't fooling with Bowser, you know, he over there with the police, you know. And you know, those kind of things happen, right? And you but what I stay focused on is my vision, my passion, my calling, and what I'm supposed to do, and understanding what it takes, right, to reduce gun violence in the community, looking at the research, the best practices, evidence-based, and so on, and then taking it from there and so on. So that's just an example that I know I've encountered and that I face in the community with people and so on. And you try to get people to understand. I remember one time, and I'll stop right here. I was talking to a youngster. There was a shooting, and on our side of town, DeAndre, and over on 32nd. And so I was talking to the detective trying to find out what was going on. And then when I left right then, some youngsters got out of the car. When I wanted to talk with one of them, he was leery of talking to me because I was just talking to the police. And then I had to explain him what my role was, right? So he could understand what my role was and why I'm doing what I'm doing. And then once he understood that, he opened up and he was okay. But a lot of times people either listen to other people, or from what they see at a distance, they're like, oh no, I'm not fooling with that. I have to deal with my own trauma when I first started working with the police, you know, and so you know, people don't understand. We all, if you form a gang member, have been and walked and lived that life, you've had a whole lot of negative and harmful and assaults and false charges, all kind of stuff brought up against you with dealing with the police. So I think, you know, if there's a healing process that needs to happen when you did. And I had to go through that years ago. I had to deal with that, and I felt very uncomfortable being around them for a while. You know, you start getting to knowing some of them, building relationships, and you start seeing that they're human beings just like yourself. But at the same time, yes, there must be accountability on that side. And so I get it on both ends, you know, from the community sometimes, and then also PD when you're holding them accountable and so on. So that collaboration, when you talk about that collaboration, you know, some collaborations don't work for people. And one of the things I tell people about collaboration is that, you know, okay, you say, because some people say, I don't want to deal with systems, but they're all connected with the system. They're connected with agencies and so on. I'm not taking the money from an agency, but yet you're working within that agency, you know, whether you're a commissioner or whether you're trying to get some other resources and stuff, or supporting a politician, they all are part of the system, you know. So a lot of times, I don't know if we really pay attention to what we say. You know, it's kind of like I was watching a video today, and you know, Crip Mac, C-Mac, you know, he have Hoover killer on his forehead, right? And a person from Hoover was saying, I ain't, you know, with that on his forehead, he ain't coming doing no podcast with me. And then somebody else was like, well, bro, if you're gonna do him like that, then you got to do the other ones that have tattoos on their body, right? That you can't see it and so on, because everybody got something on there. So a lot of times it's how we perceive and how we look at things, and being challenged and held accountable to it.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely with you on that. You know, I've been navigating those terrains myself, right? But A good thing about that right now is a lot of individuals are starting to wake up and understand the roles of community-based organizations and individuals who are willing to, go in those rooms and have the tough conversations
Right.
in a type of way. So I've
Amen.
gone through those challenges myself, and finally getting there to that position, that point where it's like it's understood all the way around, and we're starting to get more buy-in, at least in our section.
Yeah, amen. Sounds good.
Jamie, I think you have your hand up.
Yeah, just it was being discussed. I just wanted to point out too that a big part of being a community-based organization, or being a lived experience expert, or being somebody who steps into being that kind of median or bridge, we can also not just get competitive like with the organizations, but we tend to get competitive with each other and forget that like there's plenty of work to go around. Like there's not gonna be like, it's not gonna be like, oh, I can only lift 10 people out and teach them my ways, or teach them how to not bump their head, and then that's it, because all the jobs are gonna be taken like this. The world's gonna be healed. Like I think that once money gets involved, we also forget the people that we're trying to educate, to bring up, to not have to hit their heads the same way that we did. Like as I feel like as an advocate, first and foremost, to not, besides advocating for myself, and advocating for the people that I'm serving, like there's a lot of people that come in and I can give them 6-7 years of experience of things they don't have to do or experience in their advocacy, because I can just share with them and be open about that, and not be competitive with them just because they provide the same services, or they speak on the same things, or we're all going for the same speaking engagements, or whatever the case is. Remembering that like changing our mindset to understand that the systems are working exactly how they were intended to work, and that yes, we can play median and we can come and we can try to collaborate, but at the end of the day, we are really in a place for me, I believe that God has me in a place to do advocacy, to create systems within ourselves that work for us, that work and represent the community, because coming in to try to change systems that have been in place for hundreds and hundreds of years that are working exactly how they're supposed to work is not going to happen, and it's going to take our energy away from the advocacy that we can actually provide. And so while collaborating safely and effectively, remembering that over here we're also building an empire and an army of people to lift up and to educate, and to like that whole like the game is to be sold not told, like that mentality got to go away, because we are lifting up people from our communities, we are lifting up people with similar experiences, and we do want to tell them what not to do, that I had to do in order to get further than where I'm at right now quicker. And so I think remembering that, and remembering like where we come from, and remembering who we're serving, is going to always be crucial. And stop letting that, because that's where a lot of us got bumped our head in our lived experience. Money became the most prominent and important thing outside of the services, outside of our values, outside of what we wanted to do, right? What our initial intent was. And so we forget that coming out of a survival mode. Now we're back in survival mode in this advocacy world, and it's frustrating, and it's hard to deal with. And so empowering the community with conversations like this, and coming and creating space, is super important, first and foremost, to remember that like we're in this together, like we're not against each other. And sometimes I've seen that people's unhealed aspects of themselves, while they're journeying into advocacy and community-based resources and provision, that tends to dictate who they're willing and not willing to listen to and work with, and therefore partnership. And then they partner with these big fives or whatever who do get the money, and now they're against you, when really we're all trying for the same end goal. So anyways, outside of my rambling, I think that that's an important part of like our advocacy, is to stay advocates for each other as well, and represent that, and not let that go.
Yeah. Rob, I'll get to you in 1 second. This is super juicy, and is leading right into the next question. And it's already, we've been talking for 47 minutes. So we're wrapping up in about 15, but Rob, I'll have you go in a second, but I was gonna ask, what are some effective strategies for building strong relationships and partnerships between systems and community-based organizations. So Bishop, you said a bunch, I'll just repeat, utilizing larger partners like the Big Five to mentor and support. Jamie, you just mentioned, creating systems within ourselves and not focusing so much on the systems that were put in place and try to, like you said, beat our heads against a wall to try to shift things and change things that are going to take a little bit longer. I also heard some of you say making sure that we're healing and seeing that people are humans. And then something else that someone mentioned is being willing to partner with systems when others aren't willing to. So those are just some of the comments that I heard throughout. But does anyone else want to, we could open up to everyone, maybe someone who hasn't shared yet. What are some other effective strategies for building strong partnerships between systems and community-based organizations? And Rob, you can go ahead. I know you had your hand up.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to, if anyone wants to jump in on that question, I'm happy to sidecar it. But I can, on the last question, I think one of the ways for partnerships, collaborations to work is that when you do partner, agree on a scope of work and hold, like you have to have these things in writing. And I don't, I'm not saying, I'm not mean contracts, but I mean, the spirit of what you're trying to accomplish. Obviously you're going to want pen to paper at some point to agree on these things because you want to hold people accountable to those things. And if you agree on a scope of work where you say, I'll just use my organization, I will hire 35 people. And, if I can hire 40, great, right? But I agreed to hire 35, Rob, and you've only hired, within this year, and you've only hired 20, then I'm not being a good partner, right? I need to communicate what my deficits are. I need to keep you in the loop because maybe I did hit some snags, but not leaving things for assumption. And then if I didn't hire anyone, right, and I haven't come to the table and I haven't communicated, then, that partner here's the agreement, here's the scope of work, this was not a good partnership. And then you have something tangible, right, to know that I didn't do my part and agree to the scope of work that is sort of your subject matter expert in. I think sometimes folks, because they're wanting to develop, they will try to stretch themselves in these partnerships, which might not be the best place to do that, right? You might not want to try to stretch yourself in a partnership because if you're not good at something and you fail at it, you have the partner that's hooked to you, right? And so then you could drag them into that, that failure. So for me, I know I'm good at one thing, do one thing and one thing well. I can hire people, I can pay them every day, and I can give them not meaningful work, right? Because picking up trash is not a meaningful job, but the pay, right, is meaningful to a person that's just coming home that doesn't have any resources at all. And I can do that for an allotted amount of time. And so I think, just really being clear what the partnership is trying to accomplish and being clear on what your role is in it is a good place to start in foundations. And then areas where the platform, right, you have scalability on platform, then let those be known, right? And if you can share those freely, perfect, right? Like for instance, our building space. If any one of you ever wanted to use our building space, just come in. Let's talk about it. I have an NA group that runs the building, opens the building on Saturday. We built a working relationship. That's not our NA group. That's a community group that's being run by community members, but they're using our physical platform, right? Our capacity. So that for us, that took a little bit of trust, right? I have to make sure my insurance company's okay with it. Like all these little things that have to get put out, on the table. But we've been doing that for now 2 years. And we started that in the pandemic, actually, I think probably a year into the pandemic. And so that's been running great, right? There's no money being exchanged. This is just them using the space. Those kinds of partnerships, right? That don't cost anybody anything. If like I say, if you have the ability to stretch and give a partner the ability themselves to grow, there's a lot of organizations that might not have the same financial footprint that CEO has. But I'm happy to share resources that aren't going to obviously diminish, my payroll for my full-time staff, right? And then partnerships that allow us to bridge relationships. I think DeAndre is a perfect example of, someone that has known a CEO for a very long time, through his own lived experience, and then, along his education path, and then, engaging with us in employment and serving as a supervisor for us. And now in the community, someone like DeAndre could actually speak to in a very genuine way. Like, if he doesn't agree with me, that's fine, because me and DeAndre worked together, and we may not have always agreed when we worked together, but we respected each other. We had a mutual respect. And I think that's, a big factor, is that being able to trust that the other person sitting across the table from you is telling you something because they do want to see the best for, this partnership and for the individual. So you got to be open to that constructive criticism and not take it personally and get your feelings hurt. And then also on the money side, I think realizing that, many people there, I see people in the community, and this is a critique for all of us, but, this is a $1.79 trillion business, the nonprofit sector in the United States. And to think that money will not come into play, we would be naive to think that, right? And so this is, more than 10% of the US economy is supported through nonprofit sector employment. Do you think they want that number to go down? No, right? Because I consider myself part of the working poor, right? And if I wasn't doing this, I don't know, I can't get a job at Amazon, right? And pay my bills. And, I could probably get a job at a leadership level at some software company because I don't have that kind of credential. But my lived experience gives me platform here, and I can move forward in this industry. But there's a lot of folks that are in this business across global, nationally. But money is going to come into play, and just realizing that is I think just hugely important. The expectations of when dollars start to come into question is always going to cloud people's judgment calls, and it's going to murky the waters. So hopefully I didn't ramble too much.
No, thank you, Rob. Armand, you want to wrap it up and take us home? This is great. Oh, or actually,
Jeanette had her hand up. It flapped, but I saw it.
Yeah.
I didn't know if she was slapping me or what, but I saw it.
I had my hand up, and then I looked at the time, and I'm like, well, it's almost 8 o'clock here. So if they wait 5 more minutes, it's still early over there. Like, it's late here. The sad thing is that as a community member, an advocate, a mom, someone with also lived experience, right? We're not supposed to talk about the funding, right? We're not supposed to talk about money, but then we're expected to do the work because we love our community. We love our children, but guess what? Love doesn't pay our bills, right? So until we don't build financial stability in our communities, the gun violence is going to continue. I got a command truck in front of my office across the street from where I've been living for 37 years. I got cops that every time I look at them, I get traumatized, and I haven't been arrested. Right? I've experienced through my children being locked up. So I live in a community that I know the violence is there, right? The community is under-resourced. I am a community member. Everybody call me Mama Jeanette or whatever they want to call me, but they know I'm a permanent fixture to advocating for families. What I just want to finish saying is during COVID, right? Many systems were able to make discretionary decisions, right? On releasing kids, sending them to the community, pouring money into the community. And we know that it worked, right? We knew that those things worked. We started healing our community, acknowledging that it takes a village to raise children, right? We started acknowledging that, and we no longer need systems. Guess what? They still need those beds to be filled. They still building prisons. They still doing things that are going to continue to harm us. And until we don't heal our community, right, and create spaces where they're welcome, wanted, and respected, so that they could hold these systems accountable. If I'm being held accountable for being a horrible mom, because my son made a $2 mistake in school and he ended up going through the school to prison pipeline, then I'm going to hold that system accountable, because now my son doesn't like celebrating birthdays. He spent 6 years locked up. My son is still trying to figure out who he is, right? We still trying to heal a generation that returned home with no resources. So show me the money, wherever it comes from. If I got to become a new PTA mom, right, and raise money by selling cakes or selling clothes, whatever, I'm a hustler, right? And the community has to stand up and financially, right, push the work, so that the system is then saying, can I partner with you? Because it looks like you're building your community to do the work. Anyway, I can go on. I call myself Rambling Rose too. So
No, thank you for the jewels. But yeah, we appreciate everybody for coming on. This is something we're collecting. This is our third. Every month we do one of these dialogues, and please, you're more than welcome. Please come back. And we're just like I said, this is a casual conversation, and we're pulling so many jewels came from just this hour with you guys, with you great people. And collectively, this is recorded. It'll be able to resource, go back to, listen to. But after a year of collecting these great conversations, the goal is to have resource to get this information, and not just for us. What's going to happen is there's new people that are coming up behind us once we're onto something else in life, or just whatever it is, burnt out or burnt up, or we're just doing something else with ourselves. The work still needs to be done, and there's people that can now resource this and learn from the things we've learned throughout the process, through the fire. And the intention is for them to be better than we were, and to collaborate, to, I think we pointed out a lot of pitfalls today, which is good too, because if you can already anticipate and see the pitfalls, then you can avoid them. You're going to get that paperwork in place ahead of time. Coming into this, I didn't think that everything needed to be in writing. I know now that I don't care if it's my grandmother, we're going to have some kind of agreement on paper so we can look at it later, and it's just a level of accountability. So appreciate that. We'll be back. I slipped and didn't have that next date to announce, but everybody that's on here, I know everybody pretty much. I'll send out that date and would love for you to come back. Amanda, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you guys for being here.
Yeah. Thank you all. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Everyone, you're
you.
welcome. Appreciate you.
Peace.
Thanks, guys.
Good night,
Bye.
everyone.
Good night.